I don't know about you, but I only trust the best. So if you're looking at getting your roof checked out, redone, these are the guys that can help you. Belter Roofing and Construction, they are the best. They'll come out, do a free inspection. You can trust them with your roof. Call them, Belter Roofing and Construction. 405-952-7777. That's Belter Roofing and Construction.
This is the Jake for the State podcast, and this is the call for every red-blooded, God-fearing, liberty-loving patriot to prepare yourself, take your position,
stand your ground,
and advance the cause of freedom. Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Jake for the State podcast, and we are interviewing candidates across the state, both local, state, and national. So my candidate for you today is Mr. Andrew Hayes, candidate for Congressional District 4. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, sir. Well, we've talked before. You were on my radio show on 96.9. So all of you guys out there listening, you can always check out the archive shows on the radio show. Go to freedom969.com and you can discover the interview we did before. I'm sure we'll cover some of the same stuff, but also get into some new stuff. Since you've been campaigning for a while, I'm sure you've been hearing from the people. But let's rehash a little bit, just giving the people an idea of who you are. And why you decided to jump into this particular race.
All right. So I run cattle and I farm. I live in Comanche County. My wife is a nurse. She's an LPN. We've got 3 kids. We homeschool. They're with me today. The wife is doing her nursing. And so I'm farming and doing homeschool. And they're in the back room. And so you might hear them. We do a little bit of free range children.
Free range children. I like it.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, there's a little bit of structure. You have to sit down and read a book. But you don't have to do that 8 hours a day. And so there's a lot more playtime, a lot more of, getting to be a kid. It's like when we were kids, summertime, except you do school in the morning, so you get a little bit of that anyway. And then the rest of the day they play. But what else is there to say? I'm a 5th generation Okie. I was in the National Guard for a short spell. And I worked at Goodyear for almost 12 years. And so I built my farm. My granddad raised cattle, and I started off raising cattle and buying my own, and worked my way up to 20, and just kept growing it slowly and a little bit at a time, and I grew it to the point where I couldn't manage the Goodyear schedule and that workload and farming, and so I left Goodyear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go farming full time. What made you enter this particular race, Andrew?
Man, you look around. Here's kind of the idea. Is I'm not wild about Daniel Pay. That's my House rep. He's not exactly my cup of tea, but I'll tell you this: Daniel Pay is accessible. He'll talk to you. He'll work with you. And I had an idea. One thing that frustrated me is how our crime is set up. So this is totally a state issue, but I'm already into it now. So here we go. Look, we have crime, property crime, theft is divided into misdemeanor and felony, and they do that based on the value of the product. And I'm like, wait a minute, that makes sense. I'm not saying we should not do that, but there's another way to look at it. So consider this: if I don't own jet skis, but consider if a man owned a set of jet skis, but he also owns a welder and he uses the welder to make his living. Well, the value of the jet skis and the welder are about the same, right? But if you steal the jet skis, you ruin his weekend. If you steal his welder, he loses the job he's on. He can't get the next job. I mean, it's a devastating loss. So, I mean, Daniel, I took this to Daniel. I said, look, we need to pass a law that classes property not just according to value, but the type of property it is, the defensive livelihood, and basically say if you steal something that is used to secure your livelihood, then that is automatically a felony. That's an aggravated charge, and that should carry an aggravated sentence. Basically, to say to the criminals, don't steal, but if you do steal, don't steal a man's tools that he needs to feed his family, right? And so Daniel was receptive to that. He sat down with me and helped me write legislation. Of course, it died in committee, so that happens, I guess. But, you know, Daniel, like I say, he's not my cup of tea. We don't agree on stuff. But I'm like, hey, if he'll work with me, then what's the point? And so you look around, you kind of look at the weak spots. And Tom Cole, he is the epitome of a swamp creature. He's good enough on guns, abortion, and the border to sound good and to keep getting reelected. On everything else, he's junk. And so I'm like, by the way, also James Taylor, who's run against him the last 3 or 4 or 5 times, James Taylor said that he was not going to run. So I'm like, man, somebody's got to run against this guy. So I was the second to file. And then after I filed, Paul and Nick and somebody else, I still don't know who the 5th person is. They all jumped in. So now I'm like, well, I'm already in it. Already made concessions with the wife and did dealings with her. So why not just go ahead and run?
You're in. Yeah, exactly. Accessibility is huge. I'm hearing it from candidates all across the state who are running for different offices, and so many of them are saying the reason they got in is because they couldn't connect with their representative or their senator, right. And they want to be that one who really represents the people. So that what I'm hearing from you is a big deal, because even with your representative pay, you disagree with him on so many things, but you can appreciate the one thing that you're able to go and talk to him. And so that's what I'm hearing across the district from Congressional District 4 is that Tom Cole has been completely inaccessible. You can't get a hold of the guy. So what would you do different, Andrew? How would you be accessible to the people?
It's almost impossible. I think if it was 1990, it would be impossible to do. You know, and this, you're going to have to ask that question again because I'm going to go on a tirade here. But look, read Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. There was a huge fight over this in the early days when they were talking about the Constitution. The Federalists, the Alexander Hamiltons in the room, they argued that there should be one representative for every 80,000 people. The Anti-Federalists, the George Masons and the Patrick Henrys, they said, whoa, 80,000 people, that's not even a republic. We want one representative for every 15,000 people. And so a compromise was struck, and Article 1, Section 2 reads, about right in the middle of the area or the section there, you'll find it. It says, there shall be no more than one representative for every 30,000 people. And the Constitution is a good document. It's worth defending, but it's not perfect. This is one of the flaws that, 200 plus years of hindsight, and you read it and you say, well, man, it should have gone on to say nor less than one representative for every 60,000. And we would have representation. One man cannot represent 800,000 people. So I would say, hey, we need to increase the size of the House. We need to divest power. District 4 in Oklahoma. If we had one representative for every 30,000 people, that would be 26 people. And when you have a constituency of 30,000, that makes the job much more reasonable and easier to do. We're in the 21st century, and we have the internet. We can try. I have a Facebook group. It's what is it now? It's Voters of Oklahoma, CD4 Uncensored. It's not a Republican group. It's not a campaign group. There's Democrats. There's establishment Republicans, independents. There's even a Marxist or two running around. If you it's a real thing.
Say the name again.
It's Voters of Oklahoma, CD4 Uncensored. And there really are no rules. It's kind of common sense. I do kind of expect people that if they're going to go out and engage and get in the fray and debate and discuss, that they not block the person that they're debating, because that's happened before. Somebody will start getting they'll start getting beat, and then they block the other person, and that's not okay. So
right, and that's one thing I've seen from you, Andrew, is you're always up for a debate, always up to discuss the issues, and we've talked about this before as well, but you dove deep into a lot of fundamental foundational literature, and now even have a foundation that provides that, right, connected with the Mises Institute. So talk to us just a little bit about that as well.
Well, I mean, I don't even know where to start to be we just need to understand economics. We need to understand what's happening around us, and the mainstream economists, they turn economics into mathematics and equations and long drawn out sheets of statistics that go on. But economics is much simpler than that. It's much more common sense. It's as simple as I'd ask my granddad, well, Granddad, what's that horse worth? He said, Andrew, it's worth whatever somebody will pay for it. That's the idea. And I remember talking about this on your other show, but the inversion of valuations, that I trade my horse for your cow. That doesn't mean that they're equal in value. It means that I value your cow more than my horse, and you value the horse more than the cow. Otherwise, we wouldn't have traded. If they're actually equal in value, then why would we bother making the trade? But you value what I have more than what you have, and vice versa. So there's lots of very simple lessons in economics. The book I'm pushing out right now, because the main issue I'm running on is inflation. So the book I'm pushing out hard right now is What Has Government Done to Our Money by Murray Rothbard. He goes through the history, the theory of money, what it is, why it's important, what happens when the money supply is tampered with. The reason why you've heard of Gresham's law, that bad money drives out good. That only happens. That's an incomplete law, because when there are no legal tender laws, if money is freely exchanged and the people get to decide what money to use, then they will choose the good money. It's only when so what we're talking about here is you have a scenario where a coin has been weathered and worn, and it's only 90% of what it started out as. So here's a 90% of an ounce, and here's a full ounce, and they both have the government stamp on them. So they're both meant to be traded for the same value. When that happens, and the legal tender law says that you have to take this money the same as the other money, then people will only use the bad money. Because why would I spend a full ounce when I can spend 9/10 of an ounce and get what I need? And so the good coins go into savings under your bed or whatever, and the bad coins end up being circulated. That's Gresham's law. Bad money drives out good, but it's only because of legal tender laws.
So you have all of this very valuable, relevant, pertinent information, and connected to theory and connected to volumes that have been written on it. When we're talking about the voters, the present day voters that largely are uninformed and disconnected and unengaged, how are you overcoming that hurdle of connecting with your voters, especially on the issue of inflation, when you're well read on it and you've done your homework, you understand economic theory and what's driving inflation? When you're coming to the common man who hasn't done that homework and that research, what does that dialogue look like?
I mean, it takes time. It takes time, and I break it down as simply as I can. I talk about, look, you understand supply and demand. You know that every time we have a bumper crop, we have all this wheat, and that pushes the value of the wheat down, right? When we barely make a crop at all, the wheat prices go up because there's none out there. The same thing happens to money. When the volume of money is increased because of the printing press, then the value of that money goes down, just like the wheat. And so when the value of the money goes down, that means that prices go up. The way to end inflation is to shut down the printing presses, return to gold, because gold doesn't you can't print out gold, right? Gold is mined, but it's expensive to mine, and it's a slow process. And it comes in very, very slowly. In a very technical sense, with gold, you do have an inflation, but that's offset by the fact that there's a growing population, there's more things to buy, and we're getting wealthier. So there's an offset there. And I don't even get into that. I kind of just cut it off at once I say we need to shut down the printing press, they understand. But that kind of ties into the kind of race that I'm running versus the other people in the race against Cole. See, I can't even call them my opponents, right? Particularly Paul Bondar. Reach out to him, see if you can get him on your show. I ate lunch with him. He's a nice guy. He's running a conventional campaign. Again, it's nothing against him. It's what anybody does whose number one focus is winning. Is that you take whatever your message is and you boil it down to a third or fourth grade level, and you say the things that are going to resonate, that almost that they want to hear. That's really what it is. And Trump is a master at that, right? He takes his position. He talks on about a fifth grade level, okay, and that's not a slight. That's on some level that's a
strategy, huh?
Compliment, right? As an effective communicator. What I'm trying to do is I'd like to see the voting population rise above the elementary school level and, I don't know, be adults and be able to deal with these things. In the election, and what was it, 1896, when you had what was his name? Like, money was a huge issue in that election, and everybody had something to say about it. He had a Brian. Remember that guy? Williams Jennings Bryan.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I think he
yeah.
was alcohol, but that was a huge debate in 1896. So people were up in arms, and everybody had an idea about what to do with the money, and it was a big issue. And today, people just don't have any idea. So I'm trying to bring that back to the fore, and in some ways, I'm trying to win. I want to win, but I'm not going to win at the expense of dumbing down the message or oversimplifying the truth. I want people to understand. I want people to get it, because once they get it, then the more people that get it, it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference, and we're going to hit a threshold where there's people that just won't put up with this anymore.
No doubt. I mean, I completely agree about raising the bar. You have to speak to the level where people are at, but then also encourage them to rise up. And
Right.
and the more we do this, it will make an impact. We have to believe that, and we're all looking for that critical mass, that tipping
Yeah,
point.
that's what I was looking for. Critical mass, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's growing. We're seeing a big swell in the grassroots movement of people being interested. I think COVID did a lot for that, of causing
Yeah.
people to all of a sudden their freedoms are being taken away and jeopardized, and all of a sudden they get interested in politics. And so we have more and more people that are turning their ear at least to it and considering the conversation. Very important.
Right.
And so now I think that while we have people's ear, it's important to educate. And I think you've done a really good job on this. Like you told me a while back that you've spent a lot of time in the woodshed just educating yourself by reading books and having these conversations and debates. Man, we need more of that. And you're doing it with your kids. I know you're at home with your boys right now, but you teach them the fundamentals, and they raise up to be educated adults. Very critical.
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
Man, my kid. I think my boy it was his 6th birthday, and he said, "Well, Dad, why don't people just use gold for money?" Man, yeah, these kids are high speed. I got to make sure I mention this, and if ask me for another story, I'll tell you, because it's classic. It's amazing. But I gotta throw this out there. Another angle of this campaign is that. And what can I say? In some ways, I think that Paul Bondar is actually a threat to Tom Cole, right? I don't think I ever would be. I don't think that if it was one-on-one, heads up, me and Cole, I don't know that I would have a chance to win. I would run anyway, just because it's a fight worth fighting. On some level, I think I'm grateful that Paul's in the race. That being said, we are in a runoff state. So Tom Cole can't. Just give me 1 second. Why is everybody out of their room? Go back there. Thank you so much. Okay.
Parenting real time. I love it.
That was easy. So anyway,
We're in a runoff state.
where was I at? Yeah, we're a primary state, runoff state. If nobody gets 50% plus one, nobody advances. There will be a runoff. So if Tom Cole doesn't win outright, he has to go to a runoff. And so that being said, another angle of this campaign that I'm doing is supposed to be a test of the grassroots to see where the grassroots is at. I think it's fair to say that the grassroots is not strong enough to unseat Tom Cole, and that's what I mean. I'm glad that Paul is in the race, but I'm still in the race because we want to test the grassroots and see where we're at, and take stock of what we can do. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And I think that is the big question right now across the state is, what is the grassroots? Who are the grassroots? What do the numbers really look like? How much influence do they really have? all of these questions, and how do they compare, and can they stand against the establishment? What is the establishment, and how much money is truly behind them? Lots of big questions around that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Shifting to Tom Cole, you said he's strong on a certain number of issues. He's been in there for.
He appears strong.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I want you just to talk a little bit about this. This is one of the things about being an incumbent and running against an incumbent. We have a voting record. We have history. And hey, if he's doing his job and representing the people, probably he wouldn't be in this race. But people jump in because they're tired of what they're seeing. They want something new. That's usually a good indicator when you have multiple people running against an incumbent, that the incumbent is probably not living up to the expectations of the people. So besides not being available and accessible, where would you have a complaint with Tom Cole?
So before we jump into that, since we're talking about grassroots, I've got hayesforhouse.com down here in the corner. I think people can see that, right? Run over there, donate $5. This is going to be back, or not back, but going forward 10 years from now, it's going to be bragging rights. Yeah, well, I gave money to the Hayes campaign back in 2024. So do that. Get your bragging rights now. It's for the message. It's for the grassroots, and this is the start of something. And I don't even know that it's a start, because the grassroots has been building for a while now. But we're about to get rolling. And that's another idea, Jake, is I would like to see, man, I don't know. I'm on some level, I'm a little bit discouraged. I don't know what to expect. But another idea of why I'm running is to just say to people, hey, if you don't like it, just stand up and run. The grassroots will get behind you. They're going to be there. They're going to support you. And in a lot of ways they have. Not so much on the money side, and we're not looking to raise, $50 or $100,000. Our ambition is much smaller than that. So give $5. That's fine. Get your bragging rights, and your question about Tom Cole and his voting record. So, the border? It's like all the Republicans. I'm a Republican now. Look, he gives lip service to it, but what has he done, right? We're sending money over to Ukraine instead of securing our border. That's the travesty. And I'll go back to the inflation deal. We've got to shut down the Federal Reserve. Tom Cole understands. I've watched his YouTube videos, and he understands. He says the number one and number two issue to Americans are inflation and spending. But he doesn't know what causes inflation. He doesn't know how to fix it. And as far as spending goes, he's out of touch with reality. It's like somebody whose house is in foreclosure and they're still spending money. And like, maybe, look, we don't even have to get into the debate or the discussion about whether or not Ukraine is in the right or Israel is in the right. It doesn't matter. We don't have the money to help those people because we're broke. Those are the big things. We can go down the list of, he voted against the FISA amendment. We had a Fourth Amendment essentially inserted into the latest FISA bill, and he voted against that. And his vote carried the day, and federal law enforcement does not need a warrant to tap your phone because of Tom Cole. I mean,
that's huge right there. I mean, people are concerned about surveillance, about privacy, and that the recent vote on FISA, I think, upset a lot of people. It upset me. And to know that Tom Cole's vote helped get that through, well,
yeah.
I'm in District 4. I'll be voting. That'll influence my
Are you
vote.
in District 4, Jake?
I'm in
I thought
District
you
4,
were-
brother.
No, I thought it was Bice. I thought
No.
you were in Stephanie Bice's area.
No, we moved. So I'm down there,
All right.
right in the middle
That's
of it.
amazing. All right. I got one vote. Got one vote. Well, I got two. You and my mom. You know, my wife won't even vote for me.
Was she a Cole fan or what's she going?
No, she's still a libertarian.
Okay.
So she can't vote for me in the primary.
All right.
Which her thought process, she's starting to get a little bit agitated over this. She says that if Cole somehow holds on to a seat, that she might run against him too as a libertarian.
Well, there you go.
So-
I mean, got a strong family there, ready to make a difference. I love it.
And so her and I brought this up. See, this is about one of the only areas where Tom Cole can attack me. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last interview, but I only re-registered as a Republican in December.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I got involved with the Dusty Devers campaign, started supporting him. He and I are very much like-minded, and so I started supporting him. I met Terry and Amber Evans and a lot of other people in the Republican Party that are active, and I realized, oh my gosh, this party has changed dramatically. It used to be the party of Karl Rove and Chris Christie and Marco Rubio, these neocons and empty suits, and I got to meet these people, and I'm like, yeah, these people agree with me. They're down for the struggle and all that, and so I dragged my feet a little while because I'm like, all right. So finally, I go ahead and I say, yeah, I'll go ahead and join up. Katie, on the other hand, she's of the opinion that the Republican Party has always been bad, and it's always going to be bad.
In what ways?
Huh?
In what ways?
Oh, Jake. Well, the Republican Party. Before FDR came on the scene, the Republican Party was the party of big government. It was high tariffs. It was internal improvements and government spending. I mean, you're talking about building, even in the 1860s, you're talking about building a railroad from Iowa to California and spending all this money. The corruption that went into that railroad is, you wouldn't believe. The wasteful spending. They spent money based on the mile of track. So when they laid the track, they didn't lay it straight. That thing swerves this way and that and goes all over the place to get more linear feet, more linear miles, and get paid more. The Republican Party was, this isn't popular to hear. It's not fun to hear, but the Republican Party was conceived in corruption. So Abraham Lincoln, before he was ever known as Honest Abe, his moniker was Leaping Lincoln, and it was in those days it was Republicans, the Whigs, and the Republicans who wanted to spend all the money and have all the taxes and everything. And in the Illinois State House legislature, the Democrats finally came to power. The Democrats said, we're going to have an audit. We're going to open up the books, and we're going to find out where all the money is. And so the Republicans wanted to get out of there before a quorum could be called, and the sergeant at arms was at the door. Wouldn't let anybody leave. So Lincoln jumped out the first floor window to get out of the building. And so he got the name Leaping Lincoln. And the Republican Party has been bad for a very long time. It's just that the Democrats turned out to be much, much worse, really beginning with FDR. And, it's a uniparty. And I sympathize with my wife. I think that nationally, and in other places, I don't know that the Republican Party is ever going to fix itself. But I think we've done it in Oklahoma. I was at the state convention just this last weekend, and we made some changes to the rules. We voted in some great people in the state committee, and I have hope for the state party of Oklahoma. I think if there's people out there that are in the Libertarian Mises Caucus, man, come join up with us. You'll fit in.
Yeah, and I mean the history obviously is what it is, but we're looking at current day where we're at, and especially here in Oklahoma, obviously, and where we want to go, and there's no question that if you have a D beside your name or an L beside your name, if you're running as an independent, you're probably not going to get too far here in the state of Oklahoma, simply because that's the majority of people identify as Republicans. And so, but it is encouraging. I'm not one to just toe the party line because it's a party line. That was the issue I had in the Senate when I was there is, hey, I wanted to vote on principle, not on party. And I opposed my own party multiple times because I disagreed with their perspective, their stance on a bill. But we have to be a party of truth, a party of principle. And I agree. I like what we're seeing in the state. I mean, at the state convention, I think that we're seeing some good moves where the people are actually thinking for themselves. And instead of just, submitting to the higher ups and saying, no, wait a minute, we're the higher ups. The people are the government. So we've got to step up and do something about it. So I appreciate your perspective and, coming into a party because you see the positive changes and because you want to bring the voice of the people to the Capitol, which brings me to my last question here so we can wrap up is what hope do you have if you were to be elected? What hope do you have of actually making a difference up in D.C. and how long do you think it would take for that to actually happen?
Before that, I want to say, so you mentioned towing the party line, and I know what you mean, but I want to clarify for those watching that there's two ways that could be understood, and you're talking about falling in line with leadership, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's another angle. There's a party platform.
No, exactly.
Right?
And I appreciate the clarification. That's exactly right. We hold to the platform.
I'm down with the party platform. I might be a touch more radical than what the party platform is calling for, but my gosh, the Republican Party platform calls for abolishing the federal income tax. Let's go.
Right.
That's awesome. Let's do it. I'm running on the Republican Party platform. That's one of my things is that the Republicans put that together. That's what they're asking for. That's why I got elected. That's why I would be elected in the primary. So, it's my job to do what I can there. And of course, it's always an elected official's job to defend and obey the Constitution. As far as making real changes, radical changes, it all depends. There's some things that seem like maybe low-hanging fruit. I think that, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Is there any low-hanging fruit these days? Gosh. Let me put it this way. There's things that are easier to argue than other things. But in either case, look to Ron Paul. Look at what he did. He didn't do a whole lot on paper. On paper, he didn't do a whole lot. There's not a lot of bills that became law with his name next to him. The things he voted against, they passed anyway. But he was a voice for the people, and he was a voice for the Constitution. And that's... Man, I'm telling you, Jake, even if you don't realize it, that's why we're here. That's why we're here, because Ron Paul stood up and he argued things that were outside of the Overton window, and he set the stage for Trump to come in. there would have never been an opportunity for an outsider like Trump to jump in and win if Ron Paul hadn't laid the groundwork. So just essentially just preaching the message is the main job of, that would be my main job, and we have such a great, we're so much farther ahead now. You've got Tucker Carlson. Oh man, he had Ron Paul on not too long ago, and it just the opportunities are there, and right now with inflation the way it is, people are ready to hear it, and they're like, that's another idea, Jake, is if we were in 2018 and I walk up to you and I start talking about inflation, you're like, yeah, whatever, things are good, I don't care, right? But today I mentioned inflation and people are like, all right, tell me. They want to know, they're hungry for it, but yeah, that's where we're at, and that's going to keep going on, and the neat thing is if I lose, which is probably more probable, then I'll do the same thing anyway.
Keep on preaching the same message, huh?
Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, through being in the race, this is the thing, guys. If you're not happy with the way things are going, go ahead and file, join the race. You're not going to win, but you can still have an influence through the dialogue. Because I got to sit down, have a 2-hour talk with Paul Bondar, and he is running a different kind of campaign, but I think he's on board with abolishing the Federal Reserve. So you can have influence on the other people in the race, and that's worth doing too.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I appreciate your insight, your fresh perspective, your concern for the voice of the people. And I think we need to talk some more. There's still a little bit of time left before June 18th. We'll have to get on again and get an update as the race progresses. We get closer to voting time. But Andrew, I appreciate your time today. I'm going to wrap it up. We're about 40 minutes, and I want to make sure that people remember your website. They can see it at the bottom on the video, but if you're listening to the podcast, it's hayesforhouse.com. That's HAYES, the number 4, house.com, hayesforhouse.com. And you can go find out more about Andrew Hayes and his platform running for Congressional District 4 against incumbent Tom Cole. Anything else you would like to add to wrap up things today, Andrew?
Oh, I've got so much more to say, but to wrap up, just help me out. Get your bragging rights. Donate $1, $5, whatever works for you. But the idea is we're testing the grassroots. We're not looking at the number of dollars we raise. We're looking at the number of people who contribute. Right.
Yeah, so, that's it. That's it. Those that financial support is a vote, and it's a supporter, and that means so much, especially to a grassroots campaign. So you guys go check it out. I agree. Go give to the campaign, and hey, you guys be sure to like, share, and subscribe this podcast. It helps so much to get the word out. I'd like to get it spread across Oklahoma so that more Oklahomans are informed and educated and engaged in this whole process. It's the only way we can turn things around. So do that for me, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll have more candidates coming your way. So stay tuned.